Good morning. We're spending time with Bill McKibben today. He is the founder of the environmental organization 350.org and the author of more than a dozen books. Today we will be discussing oil and honey, the education of an unlikely activist. I'd love to start by discussing the origin of the title.
Sure. The oil part's easy. It refers to this work we've been doing for the last few years to try and build a movement against climate change, and it's necessarily a global movement. They don't call it global warming for nothing. So I've been on the road a good deal and missing home. The honey part's about close to home, in the kind of land of milk and honey where I get to live in the Champlain Valley of Vermont, our great agricultural valley. I spend a lot of time with one of my neighbors, a wonderful apiarist, beekeeper named Kirk Webster. And he was about the first chemical-free apiarist in the country. And his hives have weathered much better than most this plague that's attacked bees across our continent and really around the world. He, for me, is a kind of model of the local renaissance in raising food and building community that we badly need. But it's a renaissance that will be brought up short if we're not able to rein in our out-of-control climate. Vermont was beautiful and cohesive though it is, was devastated by the worst flooding in its history 2 years ago. Rainfall of a scale we've never seen before, of the kind that's only possible now that we've altered the atmosphere. And so that was a potent reminder of why we need to be on the road as well as close to home.
That's perfect. That actually brings me to my next question. I had an opportunity to read the book, and I was really struck by something you wrote. Was when you wrote that you were stepping off a small cliff into that next phase of your life. And you wrote about how you realized it was time to not be just the author, but also an author who was a full-time activist. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I'm a writer by trade. And I think for a long time I thought that's what how I would contribute. I wrote the first book about climate change, was widely read and wrote and talked about it a lot. But none of the things that should have happened in our system happened. We didn't get any of the change out of Washington or other world capitals that we needed. And reason alone wasn't prevailing. We'd won the argument, we just were losing the war. The reason was the enormous power of the fossil fuel industry, the richest industry that the world's ever seen. And against that power, it didn't seem that useful to go write yet another book. It seemed more useful to try and help with many others rally people into a new movement. We can't outspend Exxon, but maybe we can find other currencies to work in, currencies of movements, passion, spirit, creativity. Sometimes, as in the case of this Keystone Pipeline fight, we've had to spend our bodies and go to jail.
And I love that excerpt of the book because, as you say, the education of an unlikely activist, to picture you going to jail and others who are willing to do that was very powerful. What do you hope will be the biggest takeaway for the readers of this book?
Well, my hope is that they'll both take some time to witness the beauty of the world around them while it's as intact as it's ever going to be. Spend some time looking at the bees as you go, but also get engaged in this movement. It is the great challenge of our time. We're beginning to make the littlest bit of progress. We've held off the Keystone Pipeline for a couple of years so far. We've persuaded a lot of big cities and colleges and things already to divest their fossil fuel stocks. Look, the fossil fuel industry is still winning. Temperature is still going up. But there's a chance if we rally in large enough numbers and with enough conviction. And so I hope people will be part of 350.org or any other thing that's taking on this fight.
And that's what I wanted to close with, was 350.org. Can you tell me how it feels to look back at the progress you've made since beginning 350.org with 7 students tackling 7 continents to get the word out?
That's right, there were 7 undergraduates, there were 7 continents, each one took one, we went out to work. So far in 5 years, we've organized about 20,000 rallies in every country except North Korea, it must be so. And helped spearhead this Keystone Fight and investment thing. Yeah, I think really it's no tribute to our, or at least to my great abilities. I think it's a tribute to the fact that there was a lot of pent-up demand, that there were a lot of people who were very concerned about global warming, but who realized that changing their light bulbs really wasn't going to solve the problem. They've done that, it's a good thing to do, but it's also not going to stop what's a structural crisis. For that, we need deep structural reform, and we'll get it when we change the political balance of power. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that's fantastic. I'd like to wish you best of luck with your book. And if you don't mind, I'd like to end on a quote I found while I was reading some of your work, and it made me think of you. It's by Henry David Thoreau, and it says, "A truly good book teaches me better than to read it. I must soon lay it down and commence living on its hint. What I began by reading, I must finish by acting."
That's a wonderful quote.
So
That's so great.
wanted
I'm
to
going to
share
have to
that.
memorize that.
Thanks for spending time with Green TV today, and best of luck.
And take it out. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
That's a great gift.
Thanks for tuning in. And again, that was Bill McKibben with his new book, Oil and Honey, The Education of an Unlikely Activist.